That dinner wasn't an argument, Thay. It was an erasure.
I never imagined that one dinner could expose everything that was quietly breaking inside my marriage. It was supposed to be a simple night out with friends, just good food and casual conversation. Instead, it became the moment I finally saw my wife for who she had become and who I had allowed myself to be. That morning started like any other. I woke up early, made coffee, and scrolled through my phone while the house slowly filled with daylight. My wife, Lavra, was already dressed, tapping furiously on her screen, barely acknowledging me. We had grown used to that silence. It wasn't new, just heavier than before. Over breakfast, she reminded me about dinner with our friends, her tone sharp and impatient. She commented on my clothes, my posture, even the way I held my mug. None of it sounded playful. It felt like criticism sharpened into a daily habit. I brushed it off the way I always did, telling myself it wasn't worth a fight. By evening, I was already tense. I'd changed my shirt twice, not because I cared that much, but because I could hear her voice in my head, pointing out everything that wasn't good enough. When we finally left, the car ride was filled with her talking about work, promotions, and people I didn't know. Her achievements seemed designed to make me feel small. I stayed quiet, just staring at the road ahead. The restaurant was crowded and loud, the kind of place where laughter bounced off the walls. Our friends were already there, all smiles, confident, successful. The moment we sat down, Lavra transformed. She laughed louder, leaned closer to them, and became the version of herself I barely recognized at home. At first, the comments were subtle. Little jokes about how I preferred staying in instead of aiming higher. Remarks about how my job was comfortable, said in a way that sounded like a deep insult. Each laugh from the table felt like a small cut. I just smiled politely, hoping it would pass, but it didn't. As the night went on, her words grew bolder. She joked about my lack of ambition, about how she had to constantly push me to do better. She even mentioned how embarrassing it was to explain my career to new people she met. She said it all so casually, so confidently, as if she had rehearsed these lines in her head. Our friends shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but no one said a word to stop her. And I didn't either. Not until she crossed a line she could never walk back from. She raised her glass, laughing about how she might be moving soon for a better opportunity, and how change was necessary when someone refused to grow. She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't ask me. She simply announced it like my life was just an accessory to her grand plans. The table went quiet. Every sound around me faded into a dull hum. I felt something inside my chest. Snap, it wasn't anger, not sadness, but pure clarity. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just being disrespected, I was being erased. Slowly, I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor, drawing every eye in the room. I didn't shout. I didn't insult her. I simply said that I was done being a joke, done being spoken about instead of spoken to. I told her that ambition didn't give anyone the right to humiliate the person who stood beside them when no one else did. Then I turned and walked out. The air outside felt cold and clean, like stepping out of a room with no oxygen. My phone buzzed immediately, but I ignored it. For the first time in years, I didn't feel weak. I felt awake. That night, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car, thinking about every compromise I had made, every moment I stayed silent just to keep the peace. I realized that respect isn't something you demand loudly, it's something you stop giving to people who don't return it. In the days that followed, I didn't argue with her. I didn't explain myself. I focused on my own work, a project I had been quietly building alongside my regular job. It involved late nights, small steps, and consistent effort she had never even noticed because it didn't fit her narrow definition of success. Opportunities started coming quickly once I stopped doubting myself. Meetings turned into offers, ideas turned into contracts. I didn't brag about it, I didn't announce anything. I just let the results speak for themselves. When she finally noticed the change in me, it confused her, the calm, the confidence, the way I no longer reacted to her tone or her comments. She tried to regain control with apologies mixed with excuses, but it was too late. Respect, once it's broken, doesn't just come back because someone realizes what they're losing. Months later, our lives looked completely different. I had moved forward, built something meaningful, and surrounded myself with people who didn't need to tear me down to feel tall. She, on the other hand, struggled with the consequences of burning bridges she thought would always be there for her to cross. We spoke one last time, not as enemies, but as two people who had learned very different lessons from our time together. She admitted she never thought I would actually leave, never thought I could grow without her approval. I told her the simple truth that walking away from humiliation was the best decision I ever made. I didn't win by embarrassing her back. I didn't win through revenge or cruelty. I won by refusing to stay small for someone who needed me beneath them to feel important. And that night at the restaurant, the one she thought would finally break me, became the moment I finally stood up, not to her, but for myself. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like you've had to shrink yourself for someone else, I hope this gives you a little bit of strength. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. See you next time.